Alright, this is on a short clip to show you same track types. Now, same track types on the timeline will save you a lot of time if you've got multiple items in a scene that are almost exactly alike, and these are. This is what I call a beaded door string. If you were to put that inside of a door and have a character walk through it, the beads would move with them. Of course, it's large here for the demo, but in here you've got multiple items in the string, and this is a physics constrained item point to point, but these balls are all the same. If I wanted to adjust a particular item on it, like the transform key or the well, we'll look at it. Here we go with the ball. If I hit the arrow here, it opens up collected clip, transform, and animation. Now, if I want to add keys to it and say animation layer, constraint, visible, material, sound, and see all of these for every item that I open from that point on, all I've got to do is open the particular line I'm looking at. In this case, I'm looking at the physics, but if I wanted to open up every item with the same lines every time I opened up or clicked on the item within the scene, then I can do that, because I've got up here, I say object related track, and if you go over here, it says open same track types. So every ball I click on will open these same tracks, because these are ones I want to make adjustments to. So if I click ball 001, those tracks stay open for that type. Now if I go point to point, it doesn't have those tracks. It's got no tracks on it at all, as a matter of fact. So you hit ball again, and those same track types will come right back. If you only want to see just the animation itself for the physics, close this, close this, close the constraint, close the visible, and every other track that's not important here. We're on the balls, and that means you can reduce the size of your timeline, so you can actually go into your scene manager and click on the item. Here's ball. Here's the physics for it. It's been recorded already. In other words, the animation's been baked. So you go in here, and every time you open it, the physics animation will show up to make sure that when you go down this list, these items show physics animation. Now if I click on this one and this one, press Control and click, I get both. In other words, object related track, the two I selected within here, will show me if they have animation. That's all I can show you, because if I expand one like this and choose another clip like transform, look at this one up here. This one also opens up, because I said that I want to have any item that opens up with the same tracks to open up same track types. So I open up transform here, or if I open up animation layer, if I open it up here, it also opens up on this one. It keeps everything in conjunction or in a line with each other. So if I close animation here, it closes up here. And that's all you need. What I'm looking for in this case is the animation line to make sure that I check my physics. But notice up here, this box is no longer intact. So if I do object related track, again, the physics will open up here. Close this. Make sure you're on object related track if you're going to open up more than one item, and these items will open up with only the tracks that you're looking for. I'm looking for physics here, so every item that I choose, the physics line will open, as long as it's a related item. This, in other words, every ball within this chain. So now I can check. I say, okay, the physics are all there. I've got everything recorded. I can turn off my rigid. I can turn off soft. There is no soft in here. And then I can go real time and actually watch this chain work in real time without re-recording the animation, because it recorded exactly the way I wanted it to anyway. This is only 2 minutes worth of recording, but it's just a little shy of it. But by the time it finishes, this swaying and swinging will stop, because I've already got everything recorded up to the time that I wanted it recorded, and then I turned off the physics up here and soft cloth, which isn't relevant here, but it's an option to turn off. If you turn it off here, you can, in other words, you can get to the end of 2 minutes and change the object type. In other words, the object right now is dynamic. If I change the state, the object state, to frozen or kinematic, the object type for this will change at that point, at the end of the sequence that I wanted to render, which was here, 66:55. Now on here, the time is still set at, or the clock is still set for time, but I can go up here and switch it back to frames if I wanted to, once I put a pause on it. But all the recording is still there, so I just switch it back to frames, and at 66:55 is where it will stop. But all the recorded animation, as you notice, still continues, and 66:55 is where the animation stopped, which is just shy of 2 minutes, even though I've got the project set for 52,000 frames. This is the range I wanted to see. So when it stopped and came to a complete halt here, I hit pause, and that was my range I wanted to put out. So it starts out wildly swinging, and then it came to a halt. But I wanted to make sure that each one of those items on there came to record its animation on the timeline. So in the scene, I selected just the ball, open up the timeline, object related track, whichever item you choose comes up, and open the same track types for that item, regardless of what type it is. So I can open up as many as I want here and see it for every item. Rigid state, for instance. If I want to see the rigid state this is in, come back here, and then you can look right here. There's a rigid state marker that tells you what type it is. All right. Normally, when you highlight over it, it'll tell you what type it is. In this version, it has not shown me that yet, but perhaps we can double click it. Still doesn't tell me. So you'll have to look when you choose it to see what its rigid state is. Over here, it's dynamic. So if I open up the timeline again, and I come to the end of this, I can set another state for it because it's already been recorded there, and set it to static or frozen. Open up the timeline, there's a new marker, which tells me what its current status is at that marker. Come back here, and it's dynamic. So from here to here, this whole animation is dynamic. It won't get overwrote because I'm not running any physics recordings here using this to keep it active. Now it goes frozen. Anything I do in the scene is not going to affect it once I get past this timeline marker. So make sure that you understand object related track is what you choose here. And if you want to see the same thing for every item in the chain, then you make sure this is selected. And every time you bring it up, now I've got animation and rigid state. So the next ball I click on will show me animation and rigid state. And it will stay right here at this point. So I click ball, and it's rigid state. And all I've got to do is change its current status on the timeline here. Rigid state, let's go frozen, and it leaves a marker. Now from this point on, it's frozen. No more recording of the physics is going to be made except for its frozen status. In other words, if something comes in and were to strike it like a kinematic ball, it will add an additional recording in its frozen state. Static does nothing. It will not be affected by anything. But you can also go back to this key again. It says dynamic here. Is it? Or is it static? Come here just to the left of it. That's dynamic. Click on this key, and it should show frozen or static, whatever the case is. That's it. There's ways to save you time on here, but you've got to learn how these functions up here work. So take your time on the timeline. And that's all this was. It was a quick tip. I tried to go as quick as I can to show you what these correlations are to this. And these two buttons are important. They save you time because it's only going to show you what you're actually choosing if it was a character, a prop, or whatever in the scene. And that's it. Cricky out.